Hey guys, how's it going on? So I'm Satish. So this is my playlist about SQL. It's called a SQL. So I'm gonna cover about SQL, like detailed explanation about SQL. So from A to Z, like from beginner to expert level. So I'm gonna cover up topics from basic. I'll be giving an introduction about SQL and about the database, and also I'll be telling you guys about the installation part as well. With installation part, I just wanted to mention that you guys can install in two ways. I mean, there's many ways you guys can execute SQL queries. I have installation like two types. One is through using a GUI. If you guys wanted to execute all your queries in an application in a graphical user interface, you can guys go with the MySQL workbench. If you guys wanted to execute all your SQL commands, SQL queries in a command window, you guys can go with XAMPP server. So, so one thing I wanted to make sure is you guys can connect any one. If you guys wanted to go with GUI, go with MySQL workbench, or if you guys wanted to go with command window, go with the XAMPP server. But you guys can't install both the things because basically to run SQL queries, you guys need a server. So a server is created in when you're installing MySQL. MySQL Workbench. You're gonna create a server over there, and through that server, through that local host, you wanna execute all your queries. Similar manner, when you're installing a XAMPP server, you're actually creating a server for your SQL, and through that server, you'll be executing all your queries of all your SQL queries. So creating a MySQL server is the first thing. That would be automatically done once the installation is done. So while a server is created, it will be occupied a particular port. That port is common. That port is nothing but it's 3306. So this should be occupied in one of the installation. If this port is occupied in this server, then you can't use it in this. If the port is occupied on this server, you can't use it on this. So make sure you use any one, whichever you're comfortable. I'm comfortable with XAMPP server because executing queries on command window is something like it's a good way to learn about SQL. Working on MySQL Workbench is also very good. Both the things are same. At the end, you guys wanted to learn how SQL queries work. What is SQL? What queries they are? What are the topics covered in SQL? So it doesn't matter any installation, but make sure you install any one. I'd be showing both installations. First, I'd be showing about the MySQL Workbench. So guys, quickly go to the browser and click mysql.com. So if you click on downloads, and if you drag it down, you could see a MySQL community downloads. Click on this. Click on MySQL installer for Windows, and select the word. Click on the download button, the one which shows the largest one. And once you click download, I have already downloaded the community one. So here you go. Oh, sorry, that was Workbench. So here you go. Yeah, so we are actually installing the MySQL server. This Once we install the MySQL server, we'll be running all our SQL queries on that server. So in order to execute our queries, we need a server. And right now the thing is we are installing a MySQL server. So this would be the basic level. So we need a server to run our SQL queries. Click next. So your MySQL server will be downloaded, and it's showing the appropriate path. I have already installed, so I'm just overwriting it. So this MySQL server would be installed. So since I've already installed, um, I can show few of the features that few of the steps that during the installation. So while installing it, you guys might be asked for a password to create an instance for your server. So you guys have to give a password for it, and you guys have to remember that password. Make sure you guys note it down. And now that we have installed a server, we have to work on that server. So we need a workbench. So we're gonna install MySQL workbench now. So if you go over here, you could see a MySQL workbench. Click on download. Just ignore this login and sign up button. Just go directly here to start your download. You could see a MySQL server being downloaded already. Now I'm downloading. I'm installing my workbench. It's pretty much easy to install. There's nothing much complex. So during installation of the MySQL installer, like it will be installing the server. While installing the server, you guys should be prompted to ask to give a password. You guys gonna create a password and make sure you guys remember that password, and then just keep clicking on next and okay, so that it'll be so that the installation will be completed. So we have completed here the workbench. So finish it and close this. Yes. So just open your MySQL workbench. So here you could see your local instance MySQL 80. This is your automated username that they give, and then after this username they would prompt you to ask a password that I mentioned to you earlier. So this is your local instance, and it will be automatically prompted, and just click on this. So you guys would be initially it might ask you guys to enter the password for a local instance, the one which you had created. Since I have already executed it, so it doesn't ask me now. So now this is the workbench. This is where you're gonna execute all your queries, SQL queries. So right now we have so once you open this workbench, I'm gonna just give you a small glimpse on how this workbench is. So in case if you're in administration, just click on schemas. So schemas is all about your database. So whatever the database you're gonna create, I'm gonna explain you about what is database, everything, but I'm just giving you a small glimpse now about what how the MySQL workbench looks like. So you can actually create a view or create a stored procedure, and here it is. You can create a new schema that is a database, or I can also create a database using a query. So I'm gonna create a database using my first SQL query over here on the so yeah, create. So I'm giving the name of my database as a student, and yep, I'm gonna run this query. Oh, sorry, already there's a database that exists with student. I'm gonna give something like student_1. Now run this command. So there's a database created, student1. So if you just refresh it, you might seeing your database over here. Don't worry about all this other database. That this database were created by me like earlier. Yeah, this is the database, and in this database we'll be creating the tables, and we would be running a lot of queries on the tables. So before diving into those topics, I will explain you like how data, what is database, what is tables, everything. So this is how we work in MySQL Workbench. So I'm just closing this one. Now I'm gonna quickly show how to install XAMPP server. So I'm gonna show you how to install XAMPP server, and with XAMPP server we are installing alternatively we are installing a MySQL server, and through that we are through command window we are trying to execute our SQL queries. So XAMPP, if you just type it as XAMPP, you'll be getting the appropriate link, and you have to just click download. So it will be directed to the version you wanted to. Since if you want it on your Windows, go to the Windows section. If you want a Linux or Mac OS, just drag it down. So right now, click on the version, the one with the latest version. Click on here, download. So once you download it, I have already downloaded it, and this is how the file is. It's a .exe file. Just try to execute it. So yeah, set it up. Like, it's pretty much easy to set it up. Here you could see you're installing a MySQL server. Under server we are installing a MySQL server. We also so yeah, to run our SQL queries and to host it, through this server we have our local host where we could create our database, create the tables, and also run our SQL queries. So click on next. I'm not gonna click on next because I've already installed it, and it would be pretty much easy. Like, click on next and finish it, and then close it. So now what you have to do is make sure you add the particular path in your environmental variables. So once you go to edit system environmental variables, go to environment variables and click on the path in the system variables. So I have already added my MySQL bin. Make sure you add this particular path in your environmental variables so that the XAMPP server works very well. So click on OK, and then close it. So this is how it looks like. My version is older one. This is somewhere I installed in 2021. So now you guys can install the latest version. The latest version which I saw was on version 8 or something. So you could see the MySQL query over here. MySQL module over here. Click on start. You could see the port that is connected is 3306. So you can't run in both. Both in the workbench and in the XAMPP server, because if you try to run it, you can't connect the MySQL server because it says the port is already occupied by other server. So make sure you run it in any one, as I mentioned in earlier. So now it is connected. So directly now we're going to execute our queries in our command window. There you go. And to connect to our server, just like you saw in the workbench, we had our local instance and we connected to our server. Here it is something different. You have to type MySQL sh. You we type mysql -h localhost -u root. Root indicates the user, and localhost it indicates the server we are connecting, the local instance we created. So once you connect it, you will be getting connected to the server. Mine here is in MariaDB. It's almost similar as the MySQL server. So here we would be creating our database, creating our tables, everything. I'll just quickly show you, like, to just create a database. I'm just checking if any databases that are already present. So we could see here we earlier created a student_1 database. Now it is reflecting over here. We could use the same database. We have to just type the command called use student_1, and that's it. Now you can see in the place of none we have student_1, and from here we can execute our queries. So this is pretty much it. This is pretty much about the installation part. Now let's start with our topics, and I'll be covering about the basic topics about the database and MySQL and SQL. So database is actually a collection of our data. So this database provides us the capability of to access the data, manipulate the data, and the way to store the data. So coming to relational database and non-relational database. Relational database is something like the data is stored in the form of tables. Again, what do you mean by tables? Tables in the sense, if the data is stored in the form of rows and columns, something like spreadsheet, something like Excel. So when you would have seen in Excel or spreadsheet, like how the data will be stored in the format of the data we enter it's in the format of rows and columns. And yeah, so relational database is something like data stored in the form of rows and columns. And another thing with the relational databases, in the form of tables, nothing but rows and columns. So another thing with the relational databases, we can connect from one table to the other table. It has relation with multiple tables. So this is all about relational database. So what are relational database? Like, what are the relational databases that you would have come across? So MySQL is a relational database. SQLite is a relational database. MariaDB is again a relational database. PostgreSQL is also a relational database. So we have installed already MySQL Server. So you'd be knowing it right now. We will be working on relational database. So coming to non-relational database. Non-relational database is something like data that is not stored in the form of tables, not in the form of rows and columns. It's stored in the form of something different manner. So what is the different manner? So it's stored in the form of key value. It's stored in the form of documents. It's stored in the form of graphs. You guys should have heard JSON format. So the main thing is it is not stored in the form of rows and columns. And another thing is it has no connection between no relation between two tables. So please wait, guys. So I would be explaining about what's tables as well. We'll look into it once we execute our SQL queries. I'll explain about what is a table, how exactly it's stored in the form of rows and columns. I wanted to mention the difference between MySQL and SQL. So MySQL is a database. It's a database server. Okay. So MySQL is something, a database that we work upon. So the SQL is the query language that we use on MySQL database to get the information, to get the data. So MySQL is a database, and SQL is a query language that we use on top of the MySQL database. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So I would be covering it in detail when it comes to SQL, from starting with how to create a database, how to create a table, how to drop a database, how to drop a table, and what all the functions that you could perform on tables, and what all the queries you could perform on the tables, all of them. I would be covering each part in each separate video, like one video with all these topics. The CRUD operation includes all this: create, read, update, and delete. And I would be covering this one in a separate video. There's nothing but data definition language, manipulation language. Don't worry at all. I would be covering all the topics. So here, so we were in the third point. So this is the difference. Like MySQL is actually a database. So it is actually a database server. If anyone asks you, don't get confused. MySQL is just a database server. SQL is the one which is, it's a language. It's a query language that we use on MySQL to retrieve the data, to manipulate the data, that is in the database called MySQL database. Okay. So SQL, it stands, as I told you, it stands for structured query language. It's language through which we would be interacting to the database. So language through which we would be interacting with the database. So this should be it. I mean, we have covered all the basic topics. So in my next video, so from next video, it's the actual thing that we're gonna work on. We're gonna check how SQL queries work on. So I'll be starting with SQL database, and then going forward with table and all the stuffs, aggregate functions. It's the main thing. And also I'll be covering the difference between the order by and group by, also the where clause, stored procedure. This is a very important topic as well, and advanced topics on SQL like triggers, all the stuff. I'll be covering everything, and joins, outer join, inner join, right join, left join, everything would be covered. Please stay tuned. So please subscribe to my channel, guys, and make sure you guys watch all my SQL videos. And if you guys complete all my playlist, my playlist on SQL, on my SQL playlist, you guys would be mastering on SQL, because I would be covering all the topics on the SQL. This is just an installation part that I covered. This I have not covered anything important here. I just gave a glimpse on how the servers we work on what is the database, and what are the different database we have, and what are the types as well. So also I would be covering the main function, main thing about SQL. This is the main part about the playlist. So please watch my next video. Thank you. See ya. Bye.